Hey guys, Wolfie here and welcome back to the channel. As always, the usual disclaimer, any opinion here is mine and mine alone. This is RWBY Volume 9, Chapter number 5. We're at the halfway point for those who are premium members. And the name of this particular chapter is The Perfect Predicament. And Sandy wants to say hi. So basically we're just going to jump straight into that. So I am relying on the notes that I caught here. Now I actually had to pause certain aspects more than once, so that way I get everything like, okay, did I hear this correctly? Am I seeing this correctly? Now mind you, I've yet to watch chapter 4 a third time, but it's like it is what it is at this point. I've already saw it twice. I mean, once I get around to it, it just comes down to my overall schedule, to be in all honesty here. So we're just going to go into some of the key parts for this particular chapter. And by that, this one being chapter 5, it's Kiersey, I believe, who's the one who wrote this. So basically, we start off with Weiss, Blake, and Yang. I'm a little tired today, so forgive me. But yeah, so Weiss, Blake, and Yang are still small in size. So it looks like they're on the quest to get everybody, back to normal size, if that makes any sense. I do want to mention here that for chapter 5, it is the shortest in length. So part of it does affect my, this has a partial influence on what I feel about this chapter. And if that makes any sense. Now, what I've been noticing here for the volume so far, it is following the aspects of the the intro, when it's the volume. It's following it to the letter so far, which is something we really haven't seen in RWBY, in the sense of it's like volume 7. There's a part of volume 7 we didn't see until volume 8. There's another part in the volume 7 intro we still have yet to see. And for those of you who remember a particular portion of the Volume 7 intro we have yet to see, it's where Blake and Weiss are fighting together. I know they're fighting some crime. So it's basically, we have yet to see that portion. And in addition to that, we still have yet to see the nature of the after credit scene to the end of Volume 5. So it's like there's a lot of holes that still needs to be filled. Although what we're seeing now here with Volume 9 so far is if you guys remember the two novels, After the Fall and Before the Dawn, it's pretty much certain things are going on simultaneously. So we do know some stuff is going on in Remnant via the two novels. And the two novels, by the way, is Team Sun as well as Team Coffee. And I know Team Coffee is the main stars of both of those novels. Team Sun shows up in the second one, and we do know there are varying flashbacks tied to Team RWBY in the first novel. So there's a bit of a side note there, but it's a side note that should be discussed. Now, close to the beginning of chapter 5, Weiss is the one that comes the closest to swearing. And you can tell she's frustrated, and I don't blame her. Now, we do know here that Ever After has given out hints of reincarnation. Whether it be you do what you're supposed to do, you go over here, then you're given a new purpose. So I do feel that some of Oz's his reincarnation comes from this portion here, Ever After. Now, what I also notice here, certain aspects of the characters in Ever After for Volume 9 so far, is for the Curious Cat, I do feel that's Penny's dad / creator. And then the Red Knight might be Penny. We honestly don't know the latter. But I do feel that Curious Cat feels like it's tied to the person who created RWBY, who's pretty much the dad in this situation. Let me do something real quick. There we go. Okay, so that part there, and there is a possibility that, and this is a conversation they've had, is there is a possibility, Team RWBY goes back to Remnant, they won't remember certain things. So there's going to be a lot of things they will be forced to let go. But it comes down to not just the team, not just RWBY, but the entire team. It's like, who are they going to forget? And what, like, instances, memories tied to them are they're going to forget. So it's like, that's good. That will become a good question in the sense of, like, to address, like, let's just say, Team RWBY goes back to Remnant, but they forget certain things. So this could be a hint in a plethora of directions, meaning ships may become canon, ships may no longer be in the running to become canon, or new ships that to become canon could come on the horizon. So it comes down to that sort of thing. Now, there is something I do want to mention here, and this is tied to the whole reincarnation, forgetting certain things here and there. Now, it was discussed in RWBY Rewind a few years ago that they were discussing the whole thing with Adam. As far as we know, Adam is still dead. However, we have this reincarnation aspect here in Ever After, kind of ties into like that whole discussion where it's like, if Adam comes back, he's going to be the one forgetting things. He's going to forget the whole thing with this. And if that is the case, he comes back, he doesn't remember the whole thing with Blake at all. Because if you think of Beauty and the Beast, it's like, who's the Beast? Because you have Yang being based on Goldilocks. Blake is Belle from Beauty and the Beast. And Belle is seen in that whole universe as Beauty. Based on the French word belle, which means beautiful if you're talking about a female, considering the way it's spelled. So, it comes down to a whole bunch of that, and it probably would, like I said, it probably would affect, who becomes canon, who no longer becomes canon, so on and so forth. Now, I do have something written down at the very bottom of my notes. It's like I had scratched it up. I'm going to bring it up when I get to that. Now, regarding the whole thing from the Red King to the Red Prince, this does prove Weiss correct in one particular aspect. It's like, this is like sometime after the fact. We don't know the exact amount of time. And this also comes into play at the very end of this particular chapter as well, which, like I said, I'm going to get to that when I get there. Now, I put the first Rusted Knight, and I put this intentionally in quotation marks because that's who I thought it was, but it turns out to be a female weaponsmith, or blacksmith. It's the same thing in my personal opinion. Now, with this particular blacksmith, or I should say weaponsmith, it's just like, I think I would not be surprised if this person helps with RWBY's second trial by fire, which I believe is a key to this particular chapter. Because you notice that in the first, in the chapter 4, we see the trial by fire beginning for RWBY, although it does include the remainder of the team as well. However, this particular trial by fire, the second one, it's like ongoing, which makes 100% perfect sense. Now, there's something when it comes to executing things like a trial by fire, they have to overcome something major. The way that this show executed that particular aspect is excellent. Because you don't want trial by fires like what RWBY's doing now. It's like you don't want to be one chapter, that's it. So we're probably going to be seeing, for the remainder of the volume, more of RWBY's second trial by fire. Now, during RWBY's conversation with the weaponsmith, and I'm going to go back and forth referring to the female character as weaponsmith, blacksmith. I'm going to go back and forth with the terms because I feel they're one and the same, in my personal opinion. So please bear with me. So she sees the images of two people when she looks at a couple of weapons. Now, with the dagger, I couldn't really make out the character. I do know it's a female, and I want to say this is Amber, the previous Fall Maiden. And if you're talking about, and I'm not referring to Cinder, I'm referring to the previous Fall Maiden, and like I said, it is Amber. And for those of you who may or may not remember Amber, that's from Volume 3. So I do feel that that is the case here. It's like, we're looking at Amber, the previous Fall Maiden, you know, why Pyrrha couldn't be safe, so on and so forth. So I do feel that's the first part, that's first image. Now, there's a particular weapon, it looks like similar to a scythe or maybe an axe, a mobile axe, something like that. And then you see Summer's reflection. So we're probably going to be seeing a lot more Summer in the sense of like, what happened to her? What was the invisible monster that took her? There's a lot of things. It's like we still have a lot of questions in the sense of like, what happened to Summer? Because we know she's dead. But we now but now that RWBY as a teen is in Ever After, will we be seeing a reincarnated Summer here? And if she does come back, who does she come back as? And will Summer be able to remember the key things? Because we do know that when it comes to the whole thing with a certain item that RWBY gets, she goes after the emblem that's attached to her. She said with a mother's promise. And I have a feeling that there's something that may be a hit right there. So it's like we may see a reincarnated Summer, but comes down to who or what will she remember, if that does become the case. Now, I'm going over here. So it turns out the way they hinted danger in sense of like in Ever After, they use fireworks instead. So it looks like Yang got fooled there a little bit, and that could expose a bit of another problem within the team. It's like things are not what they seem. And you have here like not too long. It's like it doesn't take long for varying creatures like to give Team RWBY a hand, because now they realize, you know, hey, we got people here that's, you know, going to help us, you know, and that sort of thing. You know, want to make sure we have people who stand what we stand for, you know, to do what's right, to help those in need. Now, we do see Neo's presence in Ever After in the sense of like the whole aspect of her semblance evolving. And that's pretty darn cool in the sense of like you see multiples of whatever. So that's going to be interesting to see in the remainder of the volume. Now, the actual Rusted Knight that comes out in the very end is in fact Jean. That has aged quite a bit. Now, I will mention here that I thought the Rusted Knight was a format of Oz, because you have to remember the Rusted Knight refers to Team RWBY as just that, Team RWBY. Not Ruby, Weiss, Blake, and Yang. It's just the entire team. And we know that the Rusted Knight, based on what we've seen, is that Rusted Knight is super confident. Knows what they're doing. Takes charge without hesitation. But it was in the credits where I'm like, I had to pause it, you know. And it turns out the Rusted Knight is in fact an older Jean. We don't know how old he is in the very end here. We'll probably find that out in future chapters. Hopefully the next one, to be sure. But it is what it is in that regard. I'm glad, they did resolve that matter. And like I said, the whole thing with Jean and that time thing, it's like, again, that's that decision right there. Because we do know in Volume 8 that Yang was the first to fall. But unlike Yang, Jean was like, okay, there's something evolved in time. Meaning that he got older, he got wiser. So it looks like, based on the whole thing at the end of chapter 5 here, is that we're going to be seeing Jean may or may not be going back to Remnant, but an older, wiser version of himself, who has a lot more confidence in what to do. But it comes down to other questions that have, that people are going to be probably bringing up, etc., etc. Now, with that bit out of the way, I'm going to check time, and I'm not going to make this too long. So, what do I think about this chapter? Now, due to the length of this chapter, and it's the shortest one in the volume so far, it leaves, in my personal opinion, a decent deal to be desired, and that's mainly because that is of the length being too short. However, there are certain aspects of it that were well executed. With that being said, however, there may be some angry shippers that in the coming times. Because the whole thing with the Rusted Knight, it's been said that Blake has a crush on that particular character. And we also know that earlier on in Volume 9, Weiss thought the Rusted Knight is handsome. And it was when John revealed himself as the Rusted Knight, things got kind of interesting. So this could be one-sided Bumblebee, the biggest hint. Because we do know that Blake is bisexual. We also know that Blake is a big fan of books, and she loves the Rusted Knight. This may reignite her feelings for Sun, who she gave a kiss on the cheek to at the beginning of Volume 6. Along with the phrase along with something along the words of, "I hope this is not the last time we see each other." And that's something where, comes to Remnant, it comes down to what Blake's going to be remembering. So it's something to think about. Now, when it comes to things that other people are going to be remembering, is that what's Weiss going to be able to remember when she goes back to Remnant? Same thing with RWBY and Yang. And I will also mention here that the whole thing with the Rusted Knight, this could bring forth a new ship. And, may or may not be a popular one, but it could bring forth a new ship to become canon. And who am I referring to? I'm referring to Weiss and Jean, aka White Knight. Now, there have been varying hints here and there I've noticed since the Volume 1, believe it or not. Because you have to remember, if you're looking at slow burn, and I'm going to be very brief on this, if you're looking at slow burns, in the metaphorical sense, White Knight fits that description perfectly. You're talking about somebody who's quote-unquote rich, or should I say used to be rich, kind of spoiled in a sense, very princessy, heiress-like, and that's Weiss. She came from an academy where it's trained to be a huntress. Jean, however, went through more questionable means to get into Beacon, but has proven himself beyond the call. They have two different backgrounds. And then Volume, when he kept finding the chess pieces, the actual piece that Team RWBY were able to secure was the Knight. And the color of the piece they picked was white. And I will mention here, I do not ship Weiss and Jean at all. And that's the only hint people are going to get in this video, is I do not ship White Knight at all. But there have been a couple of interviews where the voice actress for Weiss has mentioned Weiss and Jean. 2 different interviews. And one of those interviews was with Erin. And Erin being Blake's voice actress. Now, I kind of mention this now because it's like, there's a couple of interviews. And if you look at the way Kara's been talking about this, it's like, it's a slightly more serious tone. Whereas the whole thing with pre-volume 6, Erin's like, when she mentioned Yang, it was in a joking manner. Even though it's mentioned in the official companion, unfortunately for Bumblebee shippers, and this is something you guys might want to take serious, it's like, you don't want to take what voice actors are saying at face value. Because when I heard that whole thing with Erin and talking about like her harem, and by her harem, Blake's harem, it's just like you had too many people pursuing her. And that will become a major issue down the line. Now, but again, the whole thing with this chapter leaving a decent deal to be desired, it's like these episodes are short. It's like you have to do a lot of guesswork. And we need longer episodes, in all seriousness, because you're talking about everything being so short, it's like you may not be able to execute it as well as you would want, and that could hurt things with the show in the long term. You don't want to leave, you do not want to leave too much to be desired, and I say this as a fan fiction writer. And you don't want to leave too much to be desired because it's like, it takes a lot of guesswork. People are going to come up with their own theories, and it's not really that good. And I do have to start working on, before I finish up this video, is that I do have to start with the whole Team RWBY split, because I still think that's going to happen. But it's like, I do need to do some additional research this week. I'm going to be posting this on Saturday, so with Chapter 6 for the premium members, where I'm going to do my whole video like this for those who don't pay. What I'm going to be doing here is that for Chapter 6 is that I have to film it like early, like I'm doing now, so that way I don't lose track of time, because there is a convention coming up, not this weekend, but next weekend. That's the Chicago Comic and Entertainment Expo, better known as C2E2. That is not this weekend, but next weekend. Meaning that a week from Saturday. Although it's Friday through Sunday, but I will not be, I just have to, do the video really early, and then what I'm probably going to be doing is I'm probably going to post it a day or two early, so that way I don't have to worry about it. So that way, once I get home from C2E to either Saturday and or Sunday, one of those 2 days, I can watch, for Chapter 6, a little bit more thoroughly, if I'm able to, and then possibly look into Chapter 7. And that's mainly because of the convention I have coming up. So, just to reiterate here for Chapter 5, it does leave a decent deal to be desired in the sense of, because of the shorter length of the episode. But it's like, it leaves a decent deal of guesswork, and that's that kind of hurts it, but it's made up for it very slightly in the sense of executing certain aspects. But when it comes to consistency with this sort of thing, the writers really got to step up. And that's all I have. With Wolvie here signing off, I will catch you all on the flip side.